There is a common assumption that building an effective daily routine is primarily a matter of discipline, that if one simply decides to be more structured, more focused, more committed, then consistency will follow. But in practice, this approach fails for most people, not because they lack discipline, but because they misunderstand the function of a routine. A routine is not a rigid schedule designed to control every hour of your day. It is a system designed to reduce friction, and friction is the primary reason routines fail. When a routine is overly complex, overly ambitious, or disconnected from your actual lifestyle, it requires excessive cognitive effort to maintain. Each task becomes a decision, and each decision requires energy. And over time, that energy depletes, which will eventually result in inconsistency. So the objective is not to design a perfect routine. I believe the objective is to design a sustainable one. And this begins with a shift in perspective. Instead of asking yourself, what should my ideal day look like? I think the question should be, what actions, if repeated daily, would meaningfully improve my outcomes? These questions introduce this precision because effective routines are not built on volume, they are built on priority. And most people attempt to change everything at once. They had multiple habits, but they restructure their routine, they restructure their day, and attempt to operate at a level that is not yet natural. This eventually would create resistance, and resistance leads to avoidance. I believe a more effective approach is constraint. You will select a small number of high impact actions, 2 or 3 at most, and anchor them to specific points in your day, not abstract intentions, but defined triggers. For example, instead of saying I would exercise today, you can define it as when I wake up, I will move for about 13-20 minutes. This reduces ambiguity, and when ambiguity is reduced, execution becomes more likely. The second principle is scalability. Your routine must be able to function under less than ideal conditions. Days when energy is low, when time is limited, when motivation is absent. If your routine only works when everything is optimal, it is not a routine, it is a preference. A functional routine has a minimum standard, a version of the action that can be performed regardless of circumstance, because consistency is not built on your best days, it is built on your most average ones. The third principle is repetition. The effectiveness of a routine is not determined by how much you do it in a single day, but it is determined by how consistently you perform the same actions over time. Repetition reduces resistance, it builds familiarity, and eventually transitions behavior from effort to automatic. At that point, your routine no longer requires discipline in a traditional sense. It becomes part of your life, it becomes part of your baseline. And this is the goal, not to rely on willpower indefinitely, but to construct a system that operates with minimal reliance on it. Because willpower fluctuates, systems persist. So, a daily routine that actually works is not the one that looks impressive on paper. It is one that you can execute repeatedly under varying conditions with minimal friction. It's simple and aligned with your current capacity, and over time it evolves because as your capacity increases, the routine can expand, but it must first stabilize. This is where most people get it wrong. They attempt to optimize before they stabilize, and without stability, there is no consistency, and without consistency, there is no progress. So, the solution is not to do more, it is to do less, but to do less consistently. Because ultimately, your routine is not meant to reflect your ambition, your routine is meant to support your execution.